and welcome everybody out tonight. And last week, leftovers from last week, we talked about $53 solar panels and what you might be able to do with those. These are 100-watt panels. And 7 things you can plant in July. Anybody have any follow-up on those? I check the prices of solar panels or anything, or sodium batteries.
Yeah, I looked into those, and I didn't save any of the links, but I did some Googling. You can buy some you can buy used solar panels that were formerly the cream of the crop, which are often still better than the more budget ones that are easily available. The difference being that the ones that we were watching last week were usually foldable, you know. But I did see
or at least rollable.
Yeah, well, yeah, those are actually especially unique, those super flexible ones. But if you're looking for higher output and wanting to save money, some used panels are optional. They lose efficiency over time. And I think I read that most of the used panels on the market are sold there by businesses who get tax breaks or things like that to replace their panels after they go below a certain efficiency, which is still fairly high. The caveat there is a lot of the ones I found were in the Southwest, so they're shipping. But if you can buy in enough quantities of 10 were typically the smallest. But if you can buy in quantity and split that between some folks who have a similar set of needs, then it could be pretty economical.
Yeah. Okay. And the yield curve out of those, is it kind of a constant curve, or does it really fall off towards the end?
My memory says it's pretty linear.
Okay.
So, and another thing, it was before the pandemic. I used to get some emails from someone, and I gathered that various solar companies, even the ones local, may end up having 1 or 2 panels left over after jobs when they find out there's the event in the way, and then that prevented placement of 1 panel or something like that.
Yeah.
And the next job they don't want 35 of one panel and 1 of a different kind. So that's another option for discounted panels.
Okay. And so in general, went over the markets today. The markets were generally up today. Gold was up a little bit at 23.31, which I think last week it was 23.21. So it's kind of stuck in a range right now, not moving anywhere. Gold backs are same price as they've been for the last 3 weeks at 461. I think it's a good time to accumulate some of those. Silver was up a little bit today, 29.59. Same thing, and gold silver ratio has been hanging around 79 to 80. So not much change. I think we should be using these times for some accumulation. Hilton zeros were both up today a little bit, and it looks like they've bounced off of a trend line. So because they had been going down quite a bit. Looks like they're kind of safely off of that trend line. So you might get your 3.5% interest and some capital appreciation on those. If it's not risk free, but like it has been in the past. But wheat was down like 6 cents, I think, today, and it too looks like it's bounced off of resistance. So hopefully DBA and DBC, a couple of commodity funds, or they can get a chance to check the price on those. But looking at things that should do well in a recession. XAR military industrial complex was up today pretty substantially, and I didn't get a chance to check these others. Natural gas was down. It's coming down to another buy range, looks like. US oil was up above $81, and I think that's if we do indeed go into a recession, well, we will eventually. It's been the longest non-recession in recorded history so far. You throw out COVID, but I think it's. I plan on shorting USO myself, but anyway, realize everybody's not into shorting stuff, but Bitcoin was either up or down. It was around 62K today, so it's pretty much the same thing, same place it was last week. Ethereum's about the same place, bouncing around 3,400. Or on fossil fuel is still out there, it seems like. Of course, the war on the middle class, war on cash is heating up a little bit. War on food all over the place. War on gardens, war on meat. Talk about war on cancer not being fought too well. Anyway, so seasonal information. What can we do now? We can propagate some things from softwood cuttings. We can plant that fall garden, and we can talk about that again tonight a little bit. We can start harvesting if we haven't already. Things out the garden. Bees are about to pack it in if we don't get some rain. They've probably produced most of the honey they're going to produce this year. Got some that probably needs to be harvested in July.
I don't know if anyone else monitors like some of the drought websites like drought.gov, but over the next 10 to 14 days, we're predicted to be 60 to 70% chance that will be above normal precipitation. But for the rest of the month, we're still predicted to be below normal.
Yeah, if we could
Or
just,
maybe it's the rest of the following month, something like that.
yeah, if we could just get an inch or two, it would help us, extend things out a little bit. Okay. So, any progress anybody would like to share? Things been going on? Some of these cool mornings would have been a great time to cut up some wood. I didn't, but a good time for it. Don't get many times this time of year. Go through my my walk today, or last couple of days. You got forage walk today. Suspect most of you know what these are, but quite tasty.
Yeah, bad year for them too, with the lack of rain.
Yeah, mine most of mine are like down in low ground along the creek, and so
Yeah.
they're actually looking pretty good. They are a little small, but got a lot of them.
Yeah, I had my shadiest spot did real well this year.
Hmm.
And everywhere, and my sunniest spot, they actually kind of started shriveling before they even fully ripened. So definitely less of a bounty than I anticipated.
Yeah. And the other thing that's also a little small is wild blackberries, but a lot of those on the upland.
Yeah, actually, I will share that I've got since I moved here, I've sort of been Johnny Appleseeding wild blackberries, picking the biggest, sweetest ones and saving those and just tossing them where I want them to grow. And after a couple of years now, I'm actually starting to see those bear the kinds of fruit I was hoping. They're definitely consistently bigger than they're getting larger than the ones where I originally picked them from. So
Cool.
happy about that.
There was a lot in this patch that were just over my fence, and you pay a dear price for getting in that thicket. But the other thing that I discovered this week was anybody know what this mushroom is? This is a reishi, or technically it's a varnish cap, because it looks like on here that somebody varnished this mushroom. And it's a real tough mushroom, but it's probably the most medicinal mushroom that we have in our area. And have a fairly good number. This was growing mostly on the roots of in like a 10-foot diameter probably of an old maple stump. They were just all over the place. I mean, I got this, put this many up on the stump to dry out, but there's lots more there. If anybody like to share some, I've got some. And these little teeny buds, when they first come up, are actually edible, so to speak, where these others are like, woody and hard, but really bitter, which is part of the thing that gives its medicinal effectiveness. But they these little new shoots are, you can take a small amount and put it between cheek and gum and just forget about it for a while. Get all the good stuff out of it. So, got a couple of videos tonight. One of them's financial, and the other one's back to July planting stuff. So, see if we can stop sharing. Interview or clips from something Warren Buffett said just recently that I think is spot on for our current time. I got the, this is not even giving me the option to select the computer audio.
Month U.S. Treasury offers approximately 5.4% returns, which makes them a notably attractive guaranteed investment.
Can y'all
However,
hear
Buffett
that?
himself clarified this misconception during this year's conference. He emphasized that even if the yield was as low as
That was a no, you cannot hear it?
We can hear it. I could hear it.
Okay.
1%, he would still maintain the same level of cash reserves. This belief is articulated by Buffett himself in the following clip. Take a listen.
This question's from Johan Halen, who writes, "You're sitting on 168 billion of cash, which you told us today is now more than 182 billion dollars. His questions are: one, what is Buffett waiting for? And two, why not at least deploy some of it?"
Well, I think that's pretty easy to answer. I don't think anybody sitting at this table has any idea of how to use it effectively, and therefore we don't use it, and we don't use it now at 5.4%, but we wouldn't use it if it was at 1%. Don't tell the Federal Reserve that,
So if he's not after the yield and he seriously sees no good way to spend the money, the natural assumption must be therefore that he believes that the current market is very overvalued. And of course, if it is overvalued, it must crash in order to become undervalued. Essentially, what a lot of people believe and extrapolate from these actions is that Warren Buffett is waiting for a crash. And while he's hesitant to admit to that, it's pretty clear that he expects headwinds. In 2001, Warren Buffett actually introduced his very own indicator to gauge the overall valuation of the U.S. equity markets, now famously known as the Buffett indicator. This metric compares the U.S. GDP to the total market capitalization of publicly traded companies in the U.S. Essentially, it looks at the nation's economic output against the collective value of its publicly traded enterprises. When either element deviates significantly from the other, it shows up clearly in the graph. Buffett himself called it probably the best single measure of where valuations stand at any given moment. Currently, the Buffett indicator stands at 199%, signaling that the U.S. markets are significantly overvalued, nearly 2 standard deviations higher than historical norms. Historically, whenever this ratio has surged to such heights, the market has seen serious downturns. Unlike others in the finance world, Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway don't try to predict recessions. They openly admit they have no idea when they will occur. However, we can distill their approach into a simple theory. They do a great job of recognizing when things are overvalued. Eventually, market forces will correct these imbalances, leading to opportunities. Warren understands that while he may not know when or where these corrections will happen, the current situation is abnormal and will likely change rapidly over time. Towards the end of the clip I just played, he shares something that really puts all of this into perspective. Take a listen.
it isn't like I'm got a hunger strike or something like that going on. It's just that things aren't attractive, and there's certain ways that can change, and we'll see whether they do.
So what he said there at the end is, in certain ways they can change, and we will see if they do. Reading between the lines, we all know what this means. By practically every measure out there, stocks are severely overvalued, and you don't need to look at just the Buffett indicator to see that. For example, the 10-2 Treasury yield, an indicator that has predicted nearly every recession dating back 50 years, has now spent over 630 days being inverted, beating the record set back in 1978. When the 10-2 curve inverts, it's a classic sign that a recession might be on the way. This happens when short-term bonds pay out more than longer-term ones. It's like a warning signal that investors expect the economy to struggle in the short term, so they want higher returns quickly. On the flip side, they think things will get better in the long run, so they're willing to accept lower returns on long-term investments. Now, if you check the 10-2 chart, you'll notice it's still below zero, which means it's still inverted. Historically, this is a negative signal. However, it's not until this line climbs back above zero and stops being inverted that we usually see a recession. Right now, there are no clear signals that this will happen anytime soon, but considering we've just broken the record for the longest time spent in inversion, it's reasonable to think a recession might come sooner than later. Many Berkshire investors know that Warren will never be direct about bearish sentiment, as he knows just how hard it can be to accurately predict the timing of a recession. But most investors know that you can read between the lines of his statements and understand when he has bearish ideas about the market. And one of those times is right now. In fact, according to Bill Smead, Chief Investment Officer at Smead Capital Management, this is the most bearish Warren has ever been. Take a listen to this interview clip from CNBC where he provides his controversial analysis.
Fully in charge here. So let's talk about their big cash pile, 180 some billion dollars, heading to $200 billion. What should they do with it? There is some discussion. Would you, as a shareholder, like to see them pay a dividend? Or would you like to see them make a big acquisition? Or would you like to see them buy back shares?
We have no interest in the dividend. It's fine to have them buy back shares, but you always have to think about Berkshire Hathaway, do as I do, not as I say. Because Warren Buffett is a super nice guy, and he has absolutely no interest in offending people. But if you look at what he's doing, he is as bearish as he ever gets. I read right between the lines, right from the beginning at the meeting on Saturday. I was there sitting in the audience, and I thought, okay, huge cash position, trimmed his Apple position. He's nibbling on something below the surface they haven't announced yet. But basically, he is waiting until the next 40% decline in the stock market to apply massive amounts of capital at bargain prices in things that are large enough to be meaningful to this company at the size it is now.
So you just used the phrase, this is as bearish, I believe you said, as I have ever seen him. Is that really the right characterization, or is it rather that he thinks the market is too highly priced for him to go in a big way and put fresh capital to work? In other words, is it so much a bearish call as it is a rejection of the idea that this is an opportunistic time to invest?
Tyler, you have asked a great question. So I'm going to answer this in kind of an odd way. In 1969, he pivoted from being primarily a quantitative Ben Graham value guy to being more of a Charlie Munger qualitative guy, right? Get a reasonable price on a great company. And he said back in 67, 68, 69, that the quantitative ideas that he used to like to buy were combed and recombed. That was his letter to partners. And this last year, he said that the kind of things that we would like to do have been endlessly picked over. So that is code for, we think the market's expensive. We're not in any hurry. We're going to wait. And remember, he's talked constantly for 10 to 15 years that the bigger Berkshire gets, the more it limits their opportunities.
Right.
So really, to have very large opportunities for large deployments of that $200 billion, you've got to have the entire market get into very difficult circumstances.
Essentially, there are a lot of signs that Warren may be fearing a recession soon, but of course, this is all just speculation based on his actions, or in this case, inaction. The Berkshire cash pile has grown excessively, and it's clear based on indicators like the Buffett indicator that stocks are indeed severely overvalued. When this is the case, throughout history, the thing that has made them valuable again was an economic recession. And based on things like the 10-2 yield curve, it can be argued that we do have some worrying data that seems to suggest that we could be in trouble soon. Thank you guys for watching. As always, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think will happen in the markets in the comments below.
Okay. So, any comments on that? I think we should look at the implications on that a little bit. Personal retirement future or whatever. No. No comments.
Yeah. I don't know. Been feeling it for a long time, and so my meter hasn't been right yet, but I figure a stopped clock is right every now and then, right? But I'd trust his over mine.
Yeah, but Buffett's isn't always right either. He's like me. He's a little early oftentimes, but you know, everybody. I remember in 2000, I guess it was 6 and 7 or whatever. He was doing the same thing. You know, he was building up a lot of cash, and everybody was laughing at him, you know, because things were so good in the stock market and stuff, and it'd come so far, and you know, he left some money on the table, you know, and he's probably going to leave some money on the table this time, like he got a Apple like a couple of weeks early.
Yeah. I guess the question is, you know, on everybody's mind is how bad, you know, how bad will it be, right?
Yeah.
Is it how will it compare to 2008, which was pretty impactful.
Yeah. And I think if you just look at the statistics on how long, you know, generally the longer a bull market goes on, you know, the more it constricts to get things back to normal. And well, we've been pushing this one. I think it's like 11 years now. And that's a record. So, I mean, the average pullback is like 40%. So I would say would be the minimum to expect. I would think it would be with all the other things we got going on. I would think it would be more, but that's why anybody that's gonna stay in the market, those war stocks are probably one of the few areas that will not be correlated. I suspect. But, anyway, I think most of the money for the next couple of years will be made on the short side, not the long side. There's many ways to short by buying something nowadays that didn't exist last market downturn. Anyway, so let's go ahead and talk about something that we might do to alleviate our personal situation. Last week we talked about 7 crops that could be planted in July. And here's a seed company telling us 10 crops to plant in late July even, which I think all of these would be best to be planted post haste. But anyway, to let you know, we do have a little bit of time, and we should take advantage of that. It's hard to think about gardening when it's 95 degrees out there and 80% humidity, but it's time for the fall garden. I did get a raised bed of sweet corn in the other day, and I interplanted it with for shade with the turmeric roots that I got from Sister Josiah. So see how that works out.
Hey everyone, this is Shani from Baker Creek, and today we're going to talk about crops that you can squeeze in the month of July. Maybe you found that your early spring planting, things have started to peter out by July. You've got some space in your garden, you're ready to harvest, clear things out, make some room, and start fresh. The season is far from over. It's definitely time to plant your next succession of crops. If you really want a good harvest all season long, you should be succession planting. You should be putting things in July. So there are some factors you want to keep in mind. Your growing zone is going to be probably the most important, and your personal climate that you have in your area. We're here in the Missouri Ozarks. Our zone is a zone 6. What I'm going to be talking about today is most applicable to between zones 5 and zone 7. However, I will make some indications for zones warmer and zones cooler. What I would really recommend is just if you're in a zone that's warmer than a zone 7, you can add a few weeks, basically plant a few weeks later. And if you're in a zone cooler than a zone 5, you're just going to plant these things, take these recommendations and set them back about a month. You're just going to have a shorter growing season up north, zones cooler than 5, and you're going to have a longer growing season, zones warmer than 7. So apply it in that way. If you ever have any more specific questions, please send an email to seeds@rareseeds.com, attention horticulture, and we'd be happy to give you some more specific answers. But basically, we're going to be talking about what you can still get in the ground for the month of July, especially later July, because that's around the time that we're planting right now. So without further ado, let's get to our list. This is our top 10 favorite plants to get in the ground in late July. So let's talk about edible ornamentals for the later season garden. Basil. Let's try a basil that has incredible culinary properties as well as edible ornamental properties. We want to put something in the landscape that looks nice, but is also applicable in the kitchen. Dark purple opal is absolutely a winner. It's got that really nice Italian basil flavor. You can make your late season, your fall harvest pestos and your pastas and things like that. But it also looks fantastic in the landscape. And another bonus is it's actually packed with antioxidants, anthocyanin, the purple hued antioxidant. So look at those beautiful dark purple leaves. This is a really nice way to add color to the fall landscape, to bring that fresh basil flavor. You're going to have a lot of tomatoes left over at the end of your season, and you're probably going to be making sauces or canning them. Don't forget to have some basil left over. Your early season basil might be petered out by then. It may have gone to get bitter. So get another succession of basil going. Consider inviting this dramatic purple tone into your edible landscaping for the later season. And don't forget, it's going to bring you incredible medicinal benefits. Plus, it just smells fantastic. Now is the perfect time to start another succession of beans. Try dragon's tongue bean. This is my favorite variety. It's just got really good crunch and snap. It's really good for pickling. So when you get a huge harvest at the end of the season, you can just do a huge pickling party. I like to throw pickle parties. Who knows? Why not? So try this one for pickling. Use it for fresh eating. It's absolutely not too late to get this one in now. If you find yourself having a cleared spot in the garden, go ahead and give dragon's tongue beans a try. So I want to demystify what has been typically regarded as a difficult crop to grow, cauliflower. It doesn't have to be. Actually, right now, if you start your cauliflower now in a protected indoor area that's a bit cooler, and you transplant it out to the garden and it's maturing in the fall, you're going to find a beautiful harvest of cauliflower. And you're going to find that it's actually easier than you may have thought. When you try to get cauliflower to mature in the high summer months, it's going to get attacked by bugs. But if you can protect it, keep it cool, and start it in a pot when it's young and transfer it out to the garden as it's more mature and established, you're gonna find that your pest pressure is lower and that it's growing beautifully in that cooler fall and late summer weather. So give cauliflower a try. Definitely try the variety Amazing. This is actually the easiest cauliflower we found to grow, and it's really, really great for a fall harvest. The best part about cauliflower and the rest of the brassicas, which are the cabbage family crops, they actually take on an even sweeter flavor when you harvest them after a little bit of light frost or cool weather. So this is the ideal fall crop. It does take a long season, which is why you're going to want to start it now. So give cauliflower a try. It's not as hard as you think. So there's one essential culinary herb that I want to see you guys succession sowing throughout the whole season, but specifically right now, it's a great time. You can be sprinkling cilantro seeds in little patches anywhere you find a little blank patch in your garden throughout the season, because it does go to seed quickly. Which isn't a bad thing. When cilantro goes to seed, it just turns into coriander, which is an awesome spice. But you're going to want to kind of succession sow it frequently so that you always have a nice supply of it. And this variety specifically is going to wait a bit longer before bolting. It's called slow bolt cilantro. It's going to bolt eventually. Again, you're just going to get that beautiful coriander, which is an essential ingredient in so many different recipes. It's got that beautiful essential oil smell to it. It's really strong. Of course, you're going to use the coriander leaves in your cooking. So sneak a crop of coriander in now. You can be succession sowing it really all throughout the season. Just get it in wherever you can. Now's the time to get another cucumber crop in. Cucumbers are one that you're going to want to succession plant through the season, and right now is a great time. And I love this variety, Bait Alpha, because it doesn't require pollination to set fruit, which means if you're later in the season or you're growing in a greenhouse, you're not going to require those pollinators, which may be a little more scanty later in the season or growing in a greenhouse. So it doesn't need pollinators. It's going to set actually a huge, super prolific crop. And the other great thing is that you can either choose to eat them raw or you can pickle them. So if you find yourself at the end of the season with a massive bumper crop, you can just put them up and you're going to be eating pickles all winter. So you're going to have pickles for your wintertime parties or your meals, whatever you need them for. Or you're going to have fresh snacking cucumbers at the end of the season. Either way, it's a win-win. So try the Bait Alpha cucumber in your greenhouse or even outside. It works great in both applications. So it's absolutely not too late to grow squash. A lot of us get our squash crop in right at the beginning of the season, only to find that they get absolutely ravaged by squash bugs. And then the harvest is pretty early in the season. What you might not realize is that you can actually squeeze in a later squash crop and try a variety like red curry. It's also known as Hokkaido. So what I love about this one is that it matures quickly. So you're going to be able to squeeze in a harvest before the end of the season. And you can either harvest this as an immature summer squash or a really nice tasty winter squash. It's your choice. Another bonus is that you can eat the skin of this squash. It's so thin and delicate. Yet somehow when you let it mature to be a winter squash, it actually holds up in storage. So it's great for storage. You can, if you're looking at an early frost or you're in one of those more northern parts of the zones we're discussing, you can still get a harvest in. And if you're looking for a good storage crop for winter with dense nutrients, high in beta carotene, try red curry. So we're here in the Baker Creek corn patch. This is our early planting of corn, but did you know that you can actually get a later planting of corn in? So it's not too late to get a sweet corn crop right now. Maybe you won't try a popcorn because that needs some drying time, but you can still get sweet corn. And who doesn't love fresh sweet corn in the later part of the summer? That just says harvest party. You're gonna have some sweet corn at your final hurrah of the garden season. So get your sweet corn in now. Don't forget to plant it in blocks so that it gets good cross-pollination, and you're gonna have a beautiful crop for the end of the summer. So maybe you're thinking that if you plant now, your plants are gonna have to survive both intense heat at the beginning of the season and then cooler weather at the end. So for that kind of scenario, you're gonna want something like Swiss chard. And this variety is called 5-color silver beet. And I love it because it can handle the heat in the earlier part of the season, but it's going to really, really thrive in the cooler weather too. So it's highly adaptable. It's going to take whatever weather conditions you throw at it. It's incredibly nutrient dense, and it's just going to be a nice greens for the fall. So go ahead and start sowing that anytime. It's nice to sow it in a cooler area just to really encourage good germination. But once it takes off, it is a very hardy plant. So we can't forget about the flowers. It is absolutely not too late to plant a later succession of zinnias right now. I particularly like Scabiosa zinnia. I think they have a really unique form to them. And what's really great is that they mature early and they're very vibrant, which you don't always get that color at the end of the season. Something else you'll notice is that flowers take on a really fantastic color change as the autumn sun sets in. So you're going to see some really beautiful color changes. You want to just get more color into the garden for the later part of the season. So definitely give zinnias a try. And they're going to feed your pollinators like crazy, which is so essential. So we've got our mature early sunflower crop. It's starting to finish off. Did you know that you could actually put sunflowers in the ground still? It's absolutely not too late to get a sunflower crop in right now. And the bonus of doing a late season sunflower crop is you can choose to either leave the heads in the garden to feed the birds over the winter. That's actually an incredible source of nutrition for birds over the winter. Or you can save those seeds for yourself. I love this variety Mongolian Giant because it has so many seeds. Those seeds are going to provide dense nutrition for you in the winter months. They keep really nicely. It's just an all-around beautiful, it's an edible ornamental. You're getting the beauty of a sunflower, those beautiful giant heads, and then you're getting a nice nutritious crop afterwards. So it's just a bonus. And it really says fall. Those beautiful yellow drenched colors in this landscape just look fantastic. Here's number 11. This one's a bonus for you guys. In the warmer parts of the zones we're talking about, you can probably grow any watermelon. But if you're trying to squeeze in one last watermelon crop in July, your best bet is going to be Sugar Baby Bush. It's also great for container gardening or small spaces. So maybe you only could afford to clear out a small space in your garden. Squeeze a few of these plants in there if you can. They're going to mature early and you're going to get a nice bonus at the end of the season, a sweet, delicious, refreshing watermelon for that Indian summer you might just get. And we've actually been harvesting our earlier watermelons here at the Baker Creek Garden. So let's check out this one's. Wow. Okay, so it's definitely ready. It just puts it open like that. So this is a yellow flesh variety. Oh my goodness. We've been testing out lots of different yellow fleshed types. I'm going to just take the heart right out because that's my favorite part.
I want some right now. Thought that was interesting. I really like yellow watermelons too. One thing she brought up in there that or showed that I thought was a little dangerous was I don't know whether anybody else caught it or not, but when she ate that green bean right out of the garden, did any alarm bells go off for anybody else?
No, why?
Well, maybe not that variety, but at least a kidney bean. I say three uncooked kidney beans will kill you.
Really?
Yeah, so you should never eat beans raw. Like when you're pickling them, you know, the normal pickling process for dilly beans or whatever is to they don't have to be pressure canned, but they need to at least be water bathed or steam canned. And if you're going to make a bean salad from fresh beans out of the garden, they should at least be blanched before you make it, or steamed. So something to be aware of, and I guess different beans are more potent than others, but kidney beans in particular apparently can be quite deadly. Anyway, other than that, it was a good good presentation and learned some new things there. Any other comments before we close out tonight? If not, say good night to everybody and thanks for coming out. Mark, good to see you again.
All right, thanks, Winston.
Okay,
Thank you, Winston.
welcome.